You've always been the family disappointment, Rachel. That's why we drained every single penny of your $150,000 college fund for your sister's wedding. Ashley actually has a future. She deserves it more than you ever could. My mother's voice cut through the backyard like a whip. It was the 4th of July barbecue last summer. Red, white, and blue bunting fluttering overhead. Neighbors from Maple Lane clapping politely at the grill. Kids waving sparklers. 50 people froze mid-bite of their burgers. The only sound left was the sizzle of hot dogs and the American flag snapping in the Connecticut breeze. I stood there in my simple sundress, paper plate trembling in my hand. My father Mark just nodded beside her like it was the most natural thing in the world. My sister Ashley flashed that perfect sorority smile, her new diamond tennis bracelet catching the sunlight. No one descended me. Not one uncle, not one cousin. But I didn't cry. I never cried in front of them anymore. That was the moment everything snapped into focus. My name is Rachel Ellis. I'm 28 years old. And what my parents and golden child sister didn't know was that the deed to the very colonial house they were living in, the house they felt was theirs forever, was tucked safely in my purse that day, along with a copy of my late grandmother's real hidden will, the one that was about to leave them completely homeless. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story genuinely connects with you. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Let's go back to where it all started. 45 Maple Lane, Stamford, Connecticut. A classic white colonial with black shutters, a wraparound porch, and that perfect New England lawn my father mowed every Saturday like it was his religion. Inside those four walls, though, I was never the daughter. I was the built-in servant, the scapegoat, the human ATM. I was 8 the first time I understood the rules. It was Christmas morning, 2005. The tree in the living room glowed with white lights and those expensive glass ornaments from the Stamford Town Center. Ashley, my little sister, only 5 at the time, tore open a shiny pink bike with training wheels and a giant bow. She squealed, hugged Mom, and everyone clapped. I opened my box next. Inside was one of Ashley's old coats, re-gifted, and a pair of socks. Mom's smile never wavered. She looked straight at me and said, in that sweet but sharp voice everyone else thought was loving, "Rachel, honey, you don't need anything new. You're the big sister. You're supposed to set an example and be grateful. Ashley's the baby. She needs to feel special." My dad Mark just grunted from his recliner, coffee mug in hand. "Your mother's right. Stop making that face." I swallowed the lump in my throat, nodded, and spent the rest of the day helping Ashley learn to ride her new bike, while my old one sat rusting in the garage. By the time I was 12, the pattern was locked in. I did every chore, vacuumed, folded laundry, cooked dinner on weeknights so Mom could drive Ashley to her private piano lessons at the Juilliard Prep Studio in Greenwich. One night I burned the edges of the chicken because I was exhausted from my own homework. Mom slammed the pan down so hard, the whole kitchen rattled. "Rachel, what is wrong with you?" she hissed, her perfectly manicured nails digging into my shoulder. "Your sister has recital tomorrow. She needs rest and positive energy. You're the reason this house feels like a war zone half the time." Ashley peeked around the corner in her little ballet skirt, eyes wide and innocent. "Mommy, is Rachel in trouble again?" Mom instantly softened, pulled Ashley into a hug, and cooed, "No, baby. Your big sister is just learning responsibility. Go practice." I learned to stay quiet. I learned to disappear. Fast forward to high school. I was a straight-A student at Stamford High, working 2 after-school jobs at the local Stop and Shop and tutoring middle schoolers just to buy my own prom dress. Meanwhile, my parents opened a 529 college savings plan in my name when I was 14. They made a big show of it at a family dinner. "See, Rachel?" Dad announced, waving the paperwork like a trophy. $150,000 already in there, from Grandma Eleanor's gifts and our contributions. You're going to have options your sister might not, unless she keeps up those grades. Ashley rolled her eyes across the table. "Whatever. I'm getting into Yale anyway. They have legacy spots." Mom laughed, and ruffled Ashley's hair. That's my girl. I actually believed them. For a while. Then came my senior year. I got accepted to UConn with a partial scholarship. The 529 was supposed to cover the rest. Books, dorm, everything. But one night I walked into the kitchen and caught them on the phone with the bank. Mom's voice was all sugar. Yes, we'd like to make a full withdrawal from Rachel Ellis's 529 plan. It's for family needs. Her sister's private university tuition at Boston University just went up, and the wedding venue deposit is due. The banker must have asked about me. Mom's tone sharpened. Rachel, she'll figure it out. She's always been resourceful. Ashley's the one with real potential. I stood in the doorway, frozen. My father saw me first. His face went red, but he didn't hang up. He just covered the receiver and said, calm as ever. This conversation is for adults, Rachel. Go finish your homework. I didn't fight. I never fought. I just turned around, went upstairs, and stared at the acceptance letter on my desk until the words blurred. They drained every cent. $150,000 gone in 6 months. $78,000 for Ashley's first year at BU. Another $45,000 for her dream wedding venue in Newport, Rhode Island. And the rest for her BMW lease and stress-free apartment so she didn't have to live in dorms. I found the statements months later, hidden in Dad's filing cabinet. When I turned 18 and asked about the empty account, Mom's response was ice cold. She stood in the same kitchen, arms crossed, while Ashley lounged on the counter eating $12 acai bowls delivered from the trendy cafe in town. Rachel, we're a family, Mom said flatly. Families help each other. Your sister needed it more. You can take out loans like everyone else. Stop being dramatic. Ashley smirked. Yeah, Rach. It's not like you were going to do anything special with it anyway. Dad just sipped his beer and added, end of discussion. We own this house. We decide where the money goes. I graduated high school, worked full-time through community college, then transferred to UConn on loans and scholarships. I graduated with $62,000 in debt, while Ashley posted Instagram pictures from her all-expenses-paid honeymoon in Santorini. Every holiday, the same script played out. Thanksgiving at the big oak table. Mom would toast to Ashley's brilliant career in marketing while I cleared plates. Christmas. Ashley got a new MacBook. I got a $20 gift card and a lecture about being more grateful. The neighbors on Maple Lane never knew. To them, we were the perfect Ellis family. Dad, the successful insurance broker. Mom, the PTO president. Ashley, the golden girl. And me, the quiet one who helped out a lot. But every time I drove past that colonial house after moving out at 22, something in my chest tightened. I knew the truth. I was the invisible daughter, the one they used and discarded. And the worst part, they thought they could keep doing it forever. Little did they know that my grandmother Eleanor, Dad's mom, the only person who ever really saw me, had been watching the whole time. And she had left something behind that would change everything. The secret ally and the hidden evidence. After that 4th of July barbecue, where my mother publicly announced they'd stolen my entire college fund, I drove straight to the one place that still felt like home. My grandmother Eleanor's old Victorian on Harbor Point Road in Stamford, just 10 minutes from Maple Lane, but worlds apart. Grandma Eleanor, Dad's mother, had passed away 2 years earlier, quietly, in her sleep, at 87. The family held the memorial service at the big Colonial on Maple Lane, of course. Mom made sure the catering was from the same upscale place Ashley used for her engagement party. Dad gave a short speech about Mom's legacy of family unity. Ashley posted a tearful carousel on Instagram, captioned, Forever my angel, hashtag Grandma Eleanor, hashtag family first. I didn't speak at the service. I just sat in the back row, clutching the single white rose I'd brought from her garden. No one noticed I was crying. What no one knew, not my parents, not Ashley, not even the lawyer who handled the public will, was that Grandma Eleanor had called me to her bedside 3 weeks before she died. It was a rainy Tuesday in October. I'd taken the day off from my entry-level insurance claims job to sit with her. She was tiny under the quilt, oxygen tube under her nose, but her eyes were still sharp, the same steel gray as my father's, except hers held warmth when they looked at me. "Rachel," she whispered, voice raspy but steady. "Come here, child." I pulled the chair closer. She reached under her pillow with trembling fingers and pulled out a small manila envelope, sealed with red wax. No label, just my name in her careful, looping handwriting. "This isn't for them," she said, pressing it into my hands. "This is for you. Only you. Promise me you won't open it until I'm gone, and only when you're ready to stop letting them walk all over you." I nodded, throat tight. "I promise, Grandma." She squeezed my hand once, hard. "You were always the strong one, Rachel. They never saw it, but I did, and I made sure you'd be taken care of when the time came." She died 17 days later. At the reading of the will in the lawyer's office downtown, everything looked normal. Grandma left the Victorian house to my father outright. No trust, no conditions. She left small bequests to charities she loved, her jewelry to Ashley, my sparkling granddaughter, and her antique silver tea set to Mom. To me, publicly, she left only her collection of first edition Jane Austen novels and a handwritten note that read, "To my Rachel, read these when life feels heavy. Love always, Grandma E." Ashley actually laughed when the lawyer read that part. "Books? Seriously? That's so you, Rach." Mom patted her arm. "Don't be unkind, sweetheart. Rachel loves her little stories." Dad signed the papers without even glancing at me. I walked out of that office with the manila envelope still unopened in my purse, the Jane Austen box under my arm, and a strange calm settling in my chest. I didn't open the envelope that night, or the next week. I waited until the night after the 4th of July barbecue, after my mother's words still echoed in my ears. I sat alone in my tiny one-bedroom apartment in Norwalk. The Jane Austen books lined up on the shelf like silent sentinels. I lit a single candle, broke the red wax seal, and pulled out the contents. Inside were 3 items. 1. A notarized codicil to Grandma's will, dated 6 months before her death, witnessed by her longtime neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, and her estate attorney. It was a single page. It revoked the outright gift of the Victorian house to my father. Instead, it placed the property, valued at $2.1 million in the most recent appraisal, into an irrevocable trust. The trust named me, Rachel Ellis, as the sole lifetime beneficiary, with full rights to occupy, manage, and eventually inherit the property outright upon my 35th birthday. My father was listed as having only a life estate interest that terminated immediately if he ever attempted to sell, mortgage, encumber, or transfer the property without my written consent. Any violation would trigger an automatic reversion to me. 2. A second document. A quiet title action settlement agreement my grandmother had secretly negotiated and paid for years earlier. It confirmed that the deed to 45 Maple Lane, the colonial house my parents lived in, was never properly transferred out of her name after my grandfather's death in 1998. A clerical error at the Stamford town clerk's office had left the title in Eleanor Ellis's name the entire time. My parents had been living there rent-free, paying property taxes and utilities, but never actually owning it. They'd never known. The settlement agreement included a quitclaim deed my grandmother had already signed, transferring the Maple Lane property back into her sole name. It had never been recorded. The original was in the envelope, along with instructions to record it the moment I chose to act. 3. A handwritten letter from Grandma, dated the same day as the codicil. My dearest Rachel, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and they've finally shown you who they really are. I watched for years. I saw how they treated you, like a spare part, like something to be used up. I saw them drain your college fund while they bought Ashley cars and condos. I saw the way your father looked away when your mother raised her voice. I saw it all. I couldn't stop them while I was alive, but I could make sure they never took from you again. The Victorian is yours. Truly yours. Live in it, sell it, rent it out. It's paid off, taxes current, insurance in place. The Maple Lane house was never theirs. They've been squatters in their own minds for 25 years. Do with these papers what you will. But promise me one thing. Don't let guilt stop you. You didn't make them this way. They chose it. You were never the disappointment, sweetheart. You were the only one worth saving. All my love. Forever. Grandma Eleanor. I sat on my couch until the candle burned down to nothing. Tears ran down my face, not from pain this time, but from something else. Relief. Rage. Power. The next morning I called the attorney whose name was on the codicil, Mr. Paul Hargrove, a quiet estate lawyer in Greenwich, who'd known Grandma for decades. I made an appointment for the following week. When I walked into his office 7 days later, I placed the envelope on his desk. He read every page twice. Then he looked up at me over his reading glasses. "Ms. Ellis," he said slowly, "your grandmother was exceptionally thorough. This is airtight. The codicil was properly executed. The trust is valid under Connecticut law. And the unrecorded deed means your parents have no legal property to 45 Maple Lane. They're essentially tenants at sufferance." He leaned forward. "What do you want to do?" I didn't hesitate. "I want them to understand exactly what they've done," I said. "And I want them to lose everything they thought they owned, on my timeline, in front of everyone who's ever believed their version of the story." Mr. Hargrove smiled. Just a small one, the kind lawyers give when they know the law is on your side. "Then we start by recording the quitclaim deed," he said. "And we prepare the notice to quit." I left his office that day with a folder of certified copies, and a quiet certainty I'd never felt before. My parents still lived in the colonial house they believed was theirs. They still drove the cars bought with my college money. They still bragged about Ashley's perfect life. They had no idea the ground beneath their feet had already been pulled out from under them. They just didn't know it yet. The escalation and the trap. 6 months after that 4th of July barbecue, the calls started coming more frequently. First, it was casual texts from Mom. "Hey Rach, can you swing by this weekend? The gutters need cleaning and your father's back is acting up again. You're so good at that kind of thing." Then the guilt trips got heavier. "Ashley's car needs new tires. $1,200. She's been driving so much for her new promotion. We're a little tight right now after the property tax bill. You know how it is. Family helps family." I read every message, saved screenshots, and never replied with more than, "Busy with work. Sorry." Then came the in-person ambush. It was a crisp Saturday in early November. I'd just finished a shift at the insurance agency and was grabbing coffee at the little place on Washington Boulevard when my phone rang. Dad's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. "Rachel," he said the second I picked up. "No hello. We need to talk. Come to the house. Now." I could hear Ashley laughing in the background, some pop song playing. My stomach twisted, but my voice stayed level. "I'm in the middle of something. What's this about?" "Your mother and I have decided it's time you moved back in. The guest room is still there. You can help with the house, save on rent. It's the sensible thing." I almost laughed. "I have my own apartment. I'm not moving back." A pause. Then Mom's voice came on. Speakerphone now. "Rachel Marie Ellis, stop being selfish. Ashley's fiancé proposed again, 3rd time's the charm. And they want to have the wedding here in the backyard next June. We need the house looking perfect. You'll move into the basement apartment, so we can turn your old room into a staging suite for photos. It's not a request." I leaned against the brick wall outside the coffee shop, watching leaves skitter across the sidewalk. I'm not moving back, and I'm not helping plan Ashley's 3rd engagement party. Ashley's voice cut in, sharp and mocking. "God, Rach, you're still so bitter. It's been years since the college thing. Get over it. Mom and Dad are literally offering you free rent. Most people would kill for that." Mom jumped back in, softer now, the fake concern voice she used on Neighbors. "Sweetheart, we're getting older. Your father's blood pressure is up. We need family close. You owe us that much after everything we've done for you." Everything they'd done. Right. I took a slow breath. I'll think about it. I hung up before they could argue. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. Return address, 45 Maple Lane, Stamford, CT. Inside was a handwritten note from Mom on her monogrammed stationery, clipped to what looked like a formal notice. "Rachel, since you're being difficult, we've spoken to our attorney. You have 30 days to vacate your current apartment and move back here. We've already listed your name on the lease paperwork for the house as a resident, so we can claim you on taxes next year. Family deduction. If you don't comply, we'll have no choice but to report your unpaid family contributions to collections. We still have your social security number from when you were on our insurance. Don't make this ugly. Love, Mom and Dad. They'd forged paperwork using my SSN. They were threatening identity theft level coercion, and they thought I'd fold. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I photographed every page, timestamped them, and added them to the growing digital folder labeled Ellis Evidence. That same week, Ashley posted on Instagram a carousel of the backyard strung with fairy lights, captioned, "Wedding planning has officially begun at the family estate. Grateful for parents who make dreams come true. Hashtag family first. Hashtag Maple Lane magic." The comments were full of hearts, and so beautiful, and your parents are goals. I stared at the post for a long minute. Then I screenshotted it too. I need to pause here for a second. Have you ever been the invisible one in your family? The one who's expected to give everything and get nothing back? Drop a 1 in the comments if you relate. Now back to the story. The real escalation came at Thanksgiving. They invited me as family tradition. I said yes, because I knew exactly what I needed to see with my own eyes. I arrived at 45 Maple Lane at 1 p.m. sharp on Thanksgiving Day. The colonial was lit up like a magazine spread. Cornucopia on the porch, garland on the banisters, the smell of sage and turkey drifting out every time the door opened. Neighbors waved from across the street. Everything looked perfect. Inside, the dining room table was set for 12. Mom in her burgundy cashmere sweater, Dad in his pressed polo, Ashley in a cream silk dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her fiancé Chad, a finance bro from Greenwich, was already pouring wine. They greeted me like nothing had happened. "Rachel, there you are," Mom chirped, air kissing both cheeks. "Put your coat in the hall closet and help me plate the appetizers. The deviled eggs need paprika." I did it. Not because I was scared. Because I was collecting every second of normalcy before it shattered. Dinner started at 3 o'clock. The usual toasts. Dad raised his glass. To family. To the house that's held us together for 30 years. And to Ashley and Chad, may your future be as bright as this home. Everyone clinked. I sipped water and smiled thinly. Then Ashley stood up, cheeks flushed from the Pinot Noir. "I just want to say something real quick," she began, voice syrupy. "This year has been insane, in the best way. New job, new ring, new life. And none of it would have happened without Mom and Dad. They've sacrificed so much, especially for me." She turned to me, smile sharpening. "Some people might hold grudges about silly old money stuff from years ago. But real family moves on. Right, Rach?" The table went quiet. Forks hovered. Chad gave an awkward chuckle. Mom reached over and squeezed Ashley's hand. "That's beautiful, honey. Rachel understands. She's just quieter about her feelings." Dad nodded sagely. "Rachel's always been independent. She doesn't need handouts." I set my fork down carefully. Every eye at the table was on me now. I didn't speak yet. I just reached into my purse, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a plain manila envelope, the same size as the one Grandma had given me. I laid it on the table in front of my plate. Mom's smile flickered. "What's that?" I met her eyes, calm, cold, collected. "That," I said quietly, "is 30 days' notice to vacate." The room went dead silent. Ashley laughed once, nervous, disbelieving. "What are you talking about?" I opened the envelope, pulled out the top sheet, the certified copy of the recorded quitclaim deed, stamped by the Stamford Town Clerk's office 3 weeks earlier. The one that proved 45 Maple Lane had never legally belonged to my father. I slid it across the table toward Dad. "You've been living here as tenants at sufferance for 25 years, I said, voice even. "Grandma never transferred the title after Grandpa died. The deed stayed in her name. And now it's in mine." Dad's face turned the color of ash. His hand shook as he picked up the paper. Mom snatched it from him. "This is fake. This is ridiculous. Paul Hargrove would never." Paul Hargrove witnessed Grandma's codicil, I cut in. He also helped me record the deed. You can call him if you want. He's expecting it. Ashley's perfect smile shattered. You're lying. This is my house, our house. I pulled out the next document, the codicil itself, the one that put the Victorian on Harbor Point Road into my irrevocable trust, and gave my father only a terminable life estate in nothing. And this house, I continued, you don't own it either. You never did. Chad leaned forward, confused. Wait, what's happening? Mom's voice cracked. Rachel, stop this. You're embarrassing yourself in front of everyone. I looked around the table at the stunned faces, uncles, aunts, cousins who'd always believed the perfect Ellis family story. I'm not the one who should be embarrassed, I said. Then I stood up, slowly, calmly. I'll be back in 30 days to take legal possession, I told them. You have until then to find somewhere else to live. Or you can wait for the sheriff to escort you out. Your choice. I picked up my purse, walked to the coat closet, took my coat. No one moved. No one spoke. As I reached the front door, Ashley finally found her voice, shrill, panicked. You can't do this. We'll sue you. I turned back once. The notice to quit is already filed with the court, I said. Connecticut law gives you 30 days. After that, it's forcible entry and detainer. And if you try to damage the property or forge any more documents using my SSN, the DA will be very interested in felony identity theft and attempted fraud. I opened the door. The November air rushed in, cold and clean. Happy Thanksgiving, I said. And I walked out. The front door clicked shut behind me. Inside that perfect colonial house, the family that had spent 28 years treating me like I didn't matter finally understood what it felt like to have the rug pulled out from under them. And that was only the beginning. The legal preparation. The morning after Thanksgiving, the house on Maple Lane was still standing, but the illusion was gone. I didn't go back that weekend. I didn't answer the 47 missed calls from Mom, the 12 voicemails that started with tearful pleading and ended with threats to expose me to the whole family for being ungrateful. Or the single furious text from Ashley. You're dead to us. Enjoy your sad little life in that shitty apartment. We're calling our lawyer first thing Monday. Good. Let them call whoever they wanted. I already had mine on speed dial. Monday, 8:45 a.m. I walked into Paul Hargrove's office in Greenwich. The waiting room smelled like old books and fresh coffee. His paralegal handed me a thick accordion folder before I even sat down. Mr. Hargrove is ready for you, she said. He's been working on this since Saturday. Paul met me at the door of his corner office. Mid-60s, silver hair, navy blazer. The kind of calm that comes from 30 years of watching families tear themselves apart over money and houses. Rachel, he said, shaking my hand firmly. Sit. Coffee? Black, please. He poured 2 mugs, then spread the documents across the mahogany desk like a general laying out battle plans. First things first, he began. The quitclaim deed was recorded November 20th at 10:17 a.m. at the Stamford Town Clerk's office. Public record now. Title to 45 Maple Lane is back in Eleanor Ellis's name, meaning it passed directly to you, under the terms of the codicil and the trust. Your parents have no ownership interest whatsoever. Legally, they're holdover tenants who've been there without a lease since 1998. He tapped the next page. I served the formal notice to quit possession yesterday, via certified mail, return receipt requested, and also posted a copy on the front door at 7:15 a.m. this morning. Connecticut law, General Statutes paragraph 47A to 23, requires a minimum 3-day notice for non-payment or no cause. But because there was never a tenancy agreement, we went with the full 30-day statutory notice for holdover tenants. They have until December 20th to vacate voluntarily. I nodded. And if they don't? Then we file a summary process action, eviction, forcible entry and detainer, in Stamford Superior Court. Timeline is fast. Complaint filed, return date 7 to 15 days later, hearing within a week or 2 after that. If the judge rules in your favor, and with the recorded deed and no lease, they have 0 defense. The sheriff executes the eviction. They get no extensions unless they pay rent into escrow. He slid over a pale blue sheet. This is the cease and desist letter I drafted last night. It's addressed to Mark Ellis, Karen Ellis, and Ashley Ellis. It demands they immediately cease any further use of your social security number, any credit applications in your name, any attempts to claim you as a dependent on future tax returns, and any statements, verbal or written, that could be construed as defamation or tortious interference. It cites Connecticut General Statutes, paragraph 8829B, identity theft in the second degree, a Class D felony, 52572H, negligent misrepresentation, and common law fraud. I've already run a soft credit pull through a service we use. 3 new inquiries appeared on your report last week from a mortgage broker in Darien. They were shopping for a home equity line of credit using the Maple Lane address as collateral. My jaw tightened, but my voice stayed even. They were trying to mortgage a house they don't own. Exactly. The lender would have discovered the title defect at closing and denied it. But the inquiries alone are enough to trigger FCRA violations on their end if we pursue it. I've attached a copy of your credit report, redacted for your privacy, and frozen your credit with all 3 bureaus this morning, using your permission form from last week. He leaned back. Next, the Victorian property on Harbor Point Road. The irrevocable trust is fully funded. I filed IRS Form 1041 for the trust last year, after Eleanor's death. Minimal income. Mostly interest from CDs. So no tax issues. You're the sole beneficiary. The house is appraised at $2.35 million as of last month. No mortgage. Property taxes are current through June next year. I've already transferred the utilities and insurance into the trust name. You can move in tomorrow if you want. I took a slow sip of coffee. I'm not moving in yet. I want them to see me take possession of Maple Lane first. I want them to watch. Paul gave the smallest nod of approval. Understood. Then we keep the Victorian as your safety net. Rental income potential if you ever need it. I've also prepared a revocable living trust for you personally. Simple pour-over will, durable power of attorney, healthcare directive. Everything goes to named beneficiaries of your choosing. No one in your immediate family unless you decide otherwise. I'll need your signature today. I signed where he indicated. No hesitation. He pulled out one last folder, thinner, but heavier in weight. This is the forensic accounting summary. I hired a CPA firm in Hartford, specializes in fiduciary misconduct and UTMA 529 misuse. They pulled every bank statement they could access through subpoenas we'll file if needed. But even without them, the paper trail is damning. He flipped to a spreadsheet. Between 2015 and 2018, $150,000 was withdrawn from your 529 plan in 6 separate distributions, each one coded as qualified education expenses. But the only qualified expense was Ashley's BU tuition for 1 semester, $38,412. The rest, $111,588, was used for non-qualified purposes. $62,000 wire transferred to a wedding venue in Newport, $29,500 to BMW Financial Services, $14,800 to a luxury apartment lease in Back Bay, and the balance scattered across credit card payments and cash withdrawals. He pointed to the bottom line. Under IRS rules, non-qualified withdrawals from a 529 are subject to income tax plus a 10% penalty on the earnings portion. But more importantly, because the account was in your name and the funds were custodial in nature until you turned 21, your parents committed conversion and potentially embezzlement of custodial property under Connecticut Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, CUTMA. The statute of limitations for breach of fiduciary duty is 3 years from discovery. But fraud tolls it. You discovered the full extent last summer. We're well within time. I met his eyes. Civilly, yes. We sue for breach of fiduciary duty, conversion, unjust enrichment, and constructive trust. We ask the court to impose a constructive trust on any assets traceable to the funds, Ashley's BMW, the down payment on her condo if they helped, even jewelry or other gifts purchased with the money. Criminal? Possible. Felony theft of custodial funds is a Class C felony in Connecticut, if over $20,000. I've already prepared a referral packet for the Stamford DA's Economic Crimes Unit We can file it after the eviction is complete. Let them sweat the civil case first. He closed the folder. Last piece. I've drafted a demand letter to Ashley's future in-laws, the Chad Wentworth family. They co-signed on her condo loan last year. If any of the 529 money went toward that down payment, we can put them on notice of potential fraudulent conveyance. Most wealthy families hate legal exposure. They'll pressure Chad to distance himself from Ashley fast. I exhaled slowly. You've thought of everything. Paul smiled, small, professional, satisfied. Your grandmother thought of most of it. I just executed. She told me years ago, Paul, if my son ever tries to take from Rachel the way he took from me, make sure he regrets it. I'm honoring that request. I stood up. Send me the final versions of everything. I want digital copies and hard copies. I'll be ready. He handed me the accordion folder. Now my arsenal. Rachel, he said as I reached the door, one last thing. They're going to panic. They'll beg, threaten, cry, maybe even show up at your apartment. Stay calm. Don't engage. Forward everything to me. Every text, every voicemail, every drive-by. We build the record. I nodded once. I've been calm for 28 years. I can stay calm for 30 more days. I left his office with the weight of the folder in my arms and something new in my chest. Not anger anymore. Certainty. The countdown was on. December 20th was coming. And when it did, I wouldn't need to raise my voice. The law would do the shouting for me. The calm before the storm. December 19th. One day before the 30-day notice expired. I woke up at 6:15 a.m. in my Norwalk apartment. No alarm, just the soft gray light filtering through the blinds. For the first time in years, my chest didn't feel tight when I opened my eyes. I didn't dread the day ahead. I looked forward to it. I made coffee the way I always did. Black, no sugar, in the chipped blue mug Grandma Eleanor gave me when I turned 16. I sat at the small kitchen table, opened my laptop, and reviewed the checklist Paul Hargrove had emailed me the night before. Quitclaim deed recorded. Notice to quit served and posted. Cease and desist letters sent certified mail. Credit freeze confirmed with Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Dash. Complaint drafted and ready for filing. December 21st if they don't vacate. DA referral packet for identity theft fraud prepared. Dash. Forensic accounting report bound and copied. Dash. Extra set of keys to 45 Maple Lane, cut from the original set Grandma kept in her safe deposit box. In my purse. Everything was in place. I showered slowly. Let the hot water run until the mirror fogged completely. I didn't rush. There was no need to rush anymore. In the bedroom, I opened the closet. I'd laid out the outfit 2 days earlier, pressed and hanging on the door. Charcoal gray wool trousers, crisp white button-down, black cashmere cardigan, low black ankle boots. Simple, professional, unshakable. Nothing flashy. No red lipstick, no statement jewelry. Just clean lines and quiet confidence. I dressed methodically. Buttoned each cuff, tucked in the shirt, slipped on the boots, looked in the full-length mirror on the back of the door. The woman staring back wasn't the girl who used to shrink in family photos. She stood straight, shoulders back, eyes clear. I pulled my hair into a low, neat bun, the way Grandma always wore hers when she meant business. Into my black leather tote went the arsenal. The accordion folder from Paul, tabbed and highlighted. A USB drive with audio recordings. Backup copies of every voicemail from the last month, including the ones where Mom sobbed, "How could you do this to your own family?" And Dad barked, "You'll regret this, Rachel. We'll make sure everyone knows what kind of daughter you are." Printed copies of the recorded deed, the codicil, the notice to quit with green return receipt cards attached, the original set of house keys to 45 Maple Lane, still on Grandma's old brass keyring engraved with EE 1998. A single sheet of paper. The court-stamped proof that I'd scheduled the summary process hearing for January 8th if needed. I zipped the tote, slung it over my shoulder. Before I left, I walked to the bookshelf, ran my finger along the spines of the Jane Austen novels Grandma left me, paused on Persuasion. I whispered to the empty room the way I sometimes did when the quiet felt too big. "I'm keeping my promise, Grandma. No more letting them walk over me." Then I turned off the lights, locked the door, and drove to Stamford. The route was familiar. Merritt Parkway North, exit 35, right on Hope Street, left onto Maple Lane. Same trees, Same colonial houses with wreaths still up from Christmas. Same American flags hanging from porches, even though the 4th of July was long gone. But today, the street looked different. Because today I wasn't arriving as a guest. I was arriving as the owner. I parked 2 houses down, out of sight from their windows. I didn't want them to see me yet. Not until I was ready. I sat in the car for 10 minutes, watched the house. Smoke curled from the chimney. Lights glowed in the kitchen. Mom's BMW was in the driveway next to Dad's Audi. Ashley's leased Range Rover was parked crookedly across 2 spaces, like always. They were still inside, packing, panicking, pretending nothing was happening. I didn't care. At 11:45 a.m., my phone buzzed. Text from Paul. Hearing confirmed for Jan 8th if needed. Sheriff on standby for the 21st if they refuse to leave. You good? I typed back. I'm good. Heading in now. I stepped out of the car. The cold December air hit my face. Sharp, clean, smelling faintly of wood smoke and pine. I walked the sidewalk slowly, boots clicking against the concrete. Up the front walk, past the stone lions on either side of the steps. Past the wreath Mom had hung with the giant red bow Ashley picked out. I stopped at the door, raised my hand, knocked 3 times. Firm, not angry, just certain. Mom stood there, in yoga pants and a cashmere hoodie. Hair in a messy bun, no makeup. For the first time in my life, she looked small. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Rachel? I didn't wait for the rest. I held up the keyring, let it catch the light. Tomorrow's the 20th, I said quietly. I'm here to do a final walkthrough. Make sure nothing's been damaged. Connecticut law allows the landlord reasonable access for inspection during the notice period. Dad appeared behind her, still in pajamas, face unshaven. You can't just barge in. I'm not barging, I said. I'm using my key to my house. I stepped past them both. They didn't try to stop me physically. They just stood there, stunned. The foyer smelled like cinnamon candles and panic. Boxes were stacked in the living room, half packed, half abandoned. Ashley's designer bags were piled on the stairs like she couldn't decide what to take first. Ashley came down the hallway in sweatpants and an oversized BU hoodie, phone in hand like she'd been live streaming or scrolling for sympathy likes. When she saw me, her mouth opened, then closed. I didn't acknowledge her. Kitchen. Appliances still there. No obvious damage. Dining room. Table and chairs intact. Living room. TV gone. Probably already moved to storage or a friend's garage. Upstairs. My old bedroom stripped bare, except for the faded paint on the walls where my posters used to hang. Ashley's room. Walk-in closet half empty. Suitcases open on the bed. I didn't comment. I just noted everything on my phone. Photos, timestamps, voice memos. Back downstairs, they were all in the foyer now, waiting. Mom's voice cracked. Rachel, please, we're leaving tomorrow. We found a rental in Darien. Just give us a little more time. For old time's sake. I met her eyes. Old time's sake ended when you drained my college fund. When you forged documents with my SSN. When you told the whole family at Thanksgiving that I was the problem. Dad stepped forward, hands shaking. We can talk about the money. We'll pay you back. Installments. Whatever you want. I pulled the forensic accounting summary from my tote. Held it out. $150,000 plus interest and penalties. The CPA says the traceable amount is $111,588 in non-qualified withdrawals. You can discuss repayment with my attorney, not with me. Ashley laughed, short, bitter. You think you're so powerful now? You're still nobody. You always will be. I looked at her, really looked. The Range Rover you're driving, leased with money that was supposed to be mine. The condo you live in, down payment possibly traceable to the same funds. Your wedding that never happened, then you deposit from my 529. You're not losing a house, Ashley. You're losing the life you built on someone else's back. Her perfect face crumpled. For once, no quick comeback, no smirk. I turned to my parents. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. with the sheriff if you're still here. Or you can leave the keys on the kitchen counter and lock the door behind you. Either way, this ends tomorrow. I walked to the door. Mom whispered almost too soft to hear. We're still your family. I paused, hand on the knob. Family isn't who shares your blood, I said. It's who respects you. You never did. I stepped outside. The door closed behind me with a soft click. I walked back to my car, got in, started the engine, and for the first time in 28 years, I drove away from 45 Maple Lane without looking back in the rearview mirror. Tomorrow would be the end of their chapter, and the real beginning of mine. June 15th, the following summer, 6 months after the eviction. The date Ashley had originally circled in gold ink on her vision board for the wedding of the century. The backyard of 45 Maple Lane, my backyard now, was transformed. Not for Ashley, for something far more satisfying. String lights crisscrossed above the lawn like stars caught in fishing nets. Long farm tables draped in white linen groaned under catered trays. Lobster rolls from a place in Mystic. Grilled corn with chili lime butter. Heirloom tomato salad. A towering 3-tier lemon berry cake that cost more than Ashley's first semester at BU. A string quartet played soft covers of classic standards near the rose trellis. Guests milled around in summer pastels. Neighbors from Maple Lane, distant cousins, a few of Dad's old insurance colleagues, Ashley's former sorority sisters who hadn't quite cut ties yet. Everyone sipping rosé and murmuring about how the Ellises always throw the best parties. They thought this was Ashley's post-engagement celebration. A makeup event after the third fiancé, Chad Wentworth, walked away 3 days after Thanksgiving when his family's private investigator flagged the title issues and the pending fraud referral. They thought my parents had bounced back by renting a charming townhouse in Darien and were starting fresh. They thought I'd been invited out of pity, or maybe reconciliation. They were wrong on every count. I arrived at 6:30 p.m. sharp. Black midi dress, simple gold hoop earrings, hair down in loose waves. No purse tonight, just a slim black folder tucked under my arm and my phone in my pocket. I walked through the side gate like I owned the place. Because I did. Heads turned, whispers rippled. Is that Rachel? She looks different. Didn't she and the family have a falling out? I smiled politely, nodded to a few familiar faces, accepted a glass of sparkling water from the caterer. I didn't rush. I let the party hum around me. At 7:15, Dad stepped onto the small wooden platform they'd rented, the same one they used for Ashley's high school graduation party. He tapped the microphone. The quartet faded out. Conversation died down. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice a little too loud, a little too bright. Karen and I want to thank you all for coming tonight. It's been a tough year, some misunderstandings, some hard choices, but family endures. Tonight we celebrate resilience. We celebrate Ashley, who's stronger than ever, and we celebrate new beginnings. Applause. Scattered, polite. Ashley stepped up beside him, in a pale blush gown, diamonds at her throat, the same ones Mom gave her for her 21st birthday, bought with my $5.29 money. She took the mic, chin high, smile practiced. Thank you, Daddy, and thank you all for being here. I know things have looked messy from the outside, but real family doesn't abandon each other. Some people choose to walk away. Her eyes flicked to me, sharp as glass. But we choose forgiveness. We choose love. And tonight, we're reclaiming this house, this legacy, this future. More applause, louder this time. A few ahs from the older aunts. Dad took the mic back. To that end, we've got an announcement. After months of negotiations, we've come to an agreement with our daughter Rachel. She's agreed to sign the house back over to us. Full title, no strings, in the spirit of healing. He gestured toward me. Every eye in the yard swung my way. I didn't flinch. I walked forward slowly, up the 2 steps to the platform. The crowd parted like water. Dad held out his hand, expecting me to shake it, to smile, to play along. Instead, I took the microphone from him, gently, deliberately. The yard went dead silent. I looked out at the faces, some confused, some curious, a few already uneasy. Good evening, I said, voice clear, calm, carrying without effort. My father is correct about one thing. There has been an agreement. but not the one he described. I opened the black folder, pulled out the first page, an 8x10 enlargement of the recorded quitclaim deed. The Stamford town clerk stamp clearly visible. "This is the deed to 45 Maple Lane," I said. "It has never been in my father's name. It remained in my grandmother Eleanor Ellis's name from 1998 until I recorded it last November. My parents have been living here, rent-free, tax-free, mortgage-free, for 25 years in a house they did not own." Murmurs started. Low at first. I continued, unflinching. "Last December, after serving proper notice under Connecticut General Statutes 47A-23, I took legal possession. My parents vacated on December 20th. They did not leave the keys voluntarily. The Stamford sheriff had to supervise the lockout. Their belongings were placed on the curb per state law." Dad's face drained of color. His mouth opened, closed. No sound. I turned the page. Another enlargement. This one the codicil to Grandma's will. "My grandmother left me the house on Harbor Point Road, outright through an irrevocable trust. She also left instructions and evidence that my parents misused funds from a 529 college savings account established in my name. $150,000, drained between 2015 and 2018. Used for Ashley's tuition, her BMW lease, her wedding venue deposit, her apartment in Boston. None of it for me." I looked straight at Ashley. Her hands were shaking so badly the diamonds at her throat caught the light in frantic flashes. "The forensic accountant's report shows 111,588 in non-qualified withdrawals. Under IRS rules, that triggers income tax and penalties. Under Connecticut law, it constitutes conversion of custodial property and potential felony theft of funds held in a minor's account." I set the folder down on the small podium, reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone. "And because my parents didn't stop there," I said quietly, "they attempted to use my social security number to apply for credit against this property after they knew they didn't own it. That's identity theft in the second degree, a Class D felony." I tapped the screen, connected to the Bluetooth speaker system the quartet had been using. A voice filled the backyard, tinny at first, then crystal clear. Mom's voice from a voicemail last November. "Rachel, we're just trying to secure our future. If you don't sign the quitclaim back to us, we'll have to report your unpaid family debts to collections. We still have your SSN. Don't make us do this." The recording kept playing. Dad's voice next. "You'll regret this. We'll make sure everyone knows what kind of daughter you are." I let it run for 30 seconds, long enough for every guest to hear the threats, the coercion, the casual cruelty. When it ended, I turned off the phone. The yard was so quiet you could hear the crickets in the hedges. I looked at my father, then my mother, then Ashley. "I didn't come here to yell," I said. "I came here to set the record straight. This house is mine, legally, irrevocably. The eviction stands. The civil suit for conversion and breach of fiduciary duty has been filed in Stamford Superior Court. Docket number already assigned. The DA's Economic Crimes Unit received the referral packet in January. They're reviewing it now." I stepped closer to the edge of the platform. "To everyone here tonight, but this isn't a reconciliation party. It's a closing chapter. My grandmother saw what was happening long before I did. She protected me the only way she could, and tonight I'm honoring that." I picked up the folder. "I'll be listing the house soon. If any of you are interested in buying, my attorney's card is on the table by the cake. Cash offers preferred. No family discounts." A nervous laugh from someone in the back. Then silence again. I looked at Ashley one last time. "You said real family doesn't abandon each other," I told her. "You were right. Real family doesn't steal from each other either." I stepped down from the platform. No one tried to stop me. No one spoke. I walked through the parting crowd, past the string lights, past the roses Grandma planted 30 years ago. As I reached the gate, I heard the first whispers turn into full conversations. Chairs scraping, Footsteps heading for the driveway. Cars starting. Behind me, Ashley's voice cracked through the night. Shrill, broken. Rachel, wait, please. I didn't turn around. I pushed the gate open, stepped onto the sidewalk, and kept walking. The tables hadn't just turned. They'd been flipped over, shattered, and swept away. And for the first time in my life, the silence that followed wasn't painful. It was peaceful. The collapse and instant karma. The string quartet stopped playing the moment my last word left the microphone. No one told them to. They just stopped. Bows frozen midair. The only sound left in the backyard was the low hum of summer insects and the soft clink of wine glasses being set down on tables by hands that had suddenly gone unsteady. Dad's face had gone from flushed to gray in under 10 seconds. He stood on the platform like a statue that had forgotten how to move. His mouth worked silently, open, close, open again, like a fish pulled onto dry land. Mom clutched the edge of the nearest table so hard her knuckles blanched white. Her perfect burgundy lipstick had smeared at one corner from where she'd pressed her hand to her mouth. Ashley was the first to break. She lunged forward, heels sinking into the soft brass, gown catching on the corner of a chair. "You're lying," she screamed, voice cracking high and thin. "This is my party, my house." Her words cut off when she saw the faces around her. The sorority sisters she'd invited, the ones who'd posted #squad goals under her engagement pics, were already backing away. One of them, a tall brunette in mint green, whispered loudly enough for half the yard to hear. "I thought the title thing was just a rumor. Oh my God." Dad's older brother from Hartford set his plate down with a clatter. "Mark," he said, low and hard. "Is this true? You've been living in Mom's house all these years and never owned it?" Dad tried to speak. "It's complicated. Family business. We can—" "Complicated?" Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, cut him off. She'd driven up from New Haven with her husband. "Stealing from your own daughter's college fund isn't complicated, Mark." The word landed like a slap. Guests started moving. Not running, just leaving. Quietly at first. A couple from down the street murmured apologies and slipped toward the side gate. Then, a cluster of Ashley's old high school friends grabbed their purses. Phones came out, not to record, but to text. I could see the glow of screens lighting up worried faces. Chad's mother, Mrs. Wentworth, impeccable in pearls and a cream sheath, stood near the cake table. She hadn't said a word the entire night. Now she turned to her husband, voice carrying in the sudden hush. "We're leaving. Now." They walked out without another glance at Ashley. Ashley spun toward them. "Mrs. Wentworth, wait. It's not what she said. Rachel's just jealous. She's always—" Mrs. Wentworth paused at the gate, looked back over her shoulder. "Jealousy doesn't forge quitclaim deeds or trigger felony referrals, Ashley. We've already spoken to our attorney. The condo's down payment is being reviewed for fraudulent source of funds. You'll be hearing from us." She disappeared around the corner. Ashley's knees buckled. She dropped to the grass, gown pooling around her like spilled cream. No dramatic sobs, just stunned, gasping breaths. Her phone slipped from her fingers and landed screen up. Notifications were already flooding in. Mom finally moved. She stumbled toward me, hands outstretched. "Rachel, please," she whispered. "We'll fix this. We'll pay it back. All of it. Just don't let them take everything. The house, our friends, our life." I looked at her. Really looked. The woman who'd once told me I was the family disappointment in front of 50 people now looked 20 years older. Mascara streaking, shoulders hunched. "You had years to fix it," I said quietly. "You chose not to." I turned away. Dad tried one last time. He stepped off the platform, voice hoarse. "Rachel, I'm your father." I met his eyes. "You stopped being my father the day you signed off on draining my 529 and told me it was family helping family." I walked past him, past the empty chairs, past the half-eaten plates, past the string lights still twinkling like nothing had changed. At the gate, I paused, turned back once. The yard was emptying fast. Only a handful of people remained, mostly the ones too stunned to move yet. The caterers hovered uncertainly near the kitchen door, unsure whether to start clearing or pretend they hadn't heard. I raised my voice just enough to carry. The sheriff will be here tomorrow at 9 a.m. to change the locks again. Anything left inside after that becomes my property, under Connecticut law. Consider this your final courtesy notice. No one answered. I pushed the gate open and stepped onto Maple Lane. Behind me, the first real sob broke from Ashley. Raw, ugly, childlike. Mom's voice followed, broken and small. What are we going to do? By the time I reached my car, 2 houses down, most of the cars along the street were gone. Headlights swept past me as people drove away, some fast, some slow, all without looking back. I sat behind the wheel for a long minute, hands steady on the steering wheel, breathing even. Then I started the engine, drove away from 45 Maple Lane for the last time as anything other than its sole owner. The next morning, June 16th, Paul Hargrove called at 9:05 a.m. They didn't show up to remove their remaining belongings, he said. Sheriff's deputy changed the locks at 9:02, left the eviction execution notice taped to the front door. Anything inside is now legally yours to dispose of or claim. I thanked him. Then I opened my email. A new message from the Stamford DA's Economic Crimes Unit, CC'd to Paul. Subject: RE Referral, Ellis Family Matter, Case EC-25-0471. Body: Preliminary review complete. Probable cause found for charges of identity theft, second degree, attempted fraud, and theft of custodial property, greater than $20,000. Warrants in preparation. Formal charging expected within 14 days. Please advise your client to preserve all communications. I closed the laptop. Outside my Norwalk apartment window, the sun was climbing. Clear blue sky, no clouds. I stood up, walked to the bookshelf, pulled down Persuasion, opened to the page Grandma had bookmarked years ago. The one with Anne Elliot's line underlined in faint pencil. I am not what you think me. I smiled, small, private, real. No, I wasn't. Not anymore. And they were finally starting to understand exactly who I had become. 4 months later, October 12th, 2026. Fall had settled over Stamford like a soft blanket. The leaves on Maple Lane had turned deep crimson and gold, carpeting the sidewalks in crunching color. The Colonial at 45 Maple Lane stood quiet now. Freshly painted shutters, new black front door. A small for sale sign on the lawn. Discreet, elegant, with my realtor's name in gold lettering. Asking price, $1.875 million. Cash buyers only. No contingencies. Inside, the house was empty, except for the essentials I'd kept. Grandma's Jane Austen collection on the living room shelves. Her silver tea set polished and displayed in the dining room hutch. The quilt she'd sewn, folded at the foot of the guest room bed. I hadn't moved in permanently. Not yet. I was still in Norwalk most days, but I came here on weekends to walk the rooms, open the windows, let the light pour in. It felt like breathing again. The civil suit settled out of court in late August. My parents, through their court-appointed attorney, agreed to a judgment of $185,000. The original $150,000, plus interest, penalties, and partial legal fees. They didn't have the cash, of course, so the court imposed a constructive trust on the traceable assets. Ashley's BMW was seized and sold at auction. The jewelry Mom had worn to every family event since 2015 was appraised and liquidated, and any remaining balance became a lien on whatever future income they earned. Ashley's condo in Back Bay foreclosed after the lender discovered the down payment funds were tainted. Chad's family had already pulled their co-signing guarantee months earlier. The criminal side moved slower, but it moved. In July, the Stamford DA filed formal charges. Mark Ellis, 1-count felony identity theft, second degree, 1-count attempted fraud, 1-count theft of property exceeding $20,000, custodial funds. Karen Ellis, accessory to identity theft and fraud. Ashley Ellis, 1-count conspiracy to commit identity theft, related to the credit applications using my SSN. Plea deals were offered in September. Dad took his 2 years probation, 200 hours community service, full restitution, no contact order with me. Mom got probation and restitution only. Ashley fought it longest. She hired a flashy defense attorney from New Haven, using what was left of her severance package from the marketing job she'd lost after the story spread through her professional network. In the end, she pleaded to a lesser misdemeanor, attempted unauthorized use of personal identifying information, and got 18 months probation, mandatory financial literacy classes, and the same no-contact order. They don't live in Connecticut anymore. Last I heard, through a neutral third-party real estate agent handling some loose ends, Dad and Mom moved into a small 2-bedroom rental in Manchester, up near Hartford. Dad's insurance license was suspended for 6 months after the felony charges hit the state insurance board. Mom stopped volunteering at the PTO. The whispers were too loud. They sold most of their furniture to cover moving costs and restitution payments. The Darien townhouse dream lasted 3 months before the landlord evicted them for non-payment. Ashley bounced between friends' couches for a while, then moved back in with them in Manchester. Her Instagram went private, then silent. No more #FamilyFirst captions, no more sparkling carousels. The last public post, before she locked everything, was a single black square with the caption, "Starting over." It had 3 likes, 1 from a spam account. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I kept the no-contact order in place, forwarded every attempted breach, late-night texts from blocked numbers, letters sent to my P.O. box, one awkward voicemail from Mom, crying about how much we miss our daughter, straight to Paul Hargrove. He handled the rest. Restraining order violations added another layer of consequences they couldn't afford. Me, I'm okay. More than okay. I finished paying off the last of my student loans in March, using part of the restitution check. The rest went into a high-yield savings account and a new 529 plan, not for any future kids, not yet anyway, but for me. A master's degree in risk management, maybe. Or just security. Real security. I started dating again. Quietly. A guy from my UConn alumni group. Kind, steady, no drama. We take long walks along the Harbor Point waterfront near Grandma's Victorian. I still haven't decided whether to sell it or keep it as a weekend escape. Either way, it's mine. No strings. No guilt. Thanksgiving is coming again. This year I'm hosting a small dinner at the Colonial. Not for family, for friends, real ones who've been there through the quiet years and the loud ones. We'll roast a turkey, open wine, laugh about stupid things. No speeches, no toasts to resilience or new beginnings. Just people who show up because they want to. And when the table is cleared and the dishes are done, I'll walk out onto the porch. Look up at the same stars that hung over Maple Lane when I was 8. And feel something I never felt back then. Peace. Family isn't blood. It's who treats you with respect. Boundaries aren't walls. They are doors. They let the right people in and keep the ones who hurt you out. I finally learned how to turn the key. If this story meant something to you, hit like and subscribe. Check the description for the next story. Take care of yourselves.